Michael with United Veterans Worldwide, excited today to meet with Monica. She and I have gotten in touch with each other on LinkedIn, I believe. I reached out because I saw her media page for Spousely, and I was really interested to hear more about why she got involved with this organization, starting this organization. And had a quick call with her recently, and I'm very excited to introduce you to this global audience, Monica, and have you share your vision and your story. So can you tell us a little more details about who you are?
Absolutely. Well, thanks again for having me, Michael. It's been so nice getting to know you more, and thanks for everything that you're doing to continue serving and supporting so many of us. So, hey, everybody, I'm Monica Fullerton. I am the founder and CEO of Spousely. I am a proud Air Force spouse, a twin mom, and a corporate business woman turned entrepreneur. Always a business enthusiast, so always doing many different things in terms of, exploring and aligning different passions with continuous professional growth.
Yeah, and I'm excited to interview you for several reasons today. One, because you're the spouse of an active duty Air Force. And the second is the business that you've started, this entrepreneurial piece, because many veterans getting out, looking to transition back into civilian society, there's such a propensity for these individuals to look for an entrepreneurial opportunity to use their skill sets with people to increase their ability to be meaningful, have a meaningful life. And I think some of the things that you'll share with us today will be helpful for that group of people. Let's go back in time a little bit. Tell me about your journey with marrying somebody who's in the military, and proceed that forward into what you're doing today.
Absolutely. So I'll take you way back because it's kind of part of my journey. So born and raised in a small town in Ohio, and after graduating from high school, I set off to South Florida with big dreams of becoming the next Oprah. And I say that because I was just always so inspired by the power of communication and how she really, at the time, used her expertise and platform to share stories that inspired others to do good and to continue pushing forward. I always loved that she brought real people on to share their real stories versus, ones that have already kind of made it and long story short, just kind of already had the fame. So I loved the communication piece. So I'm a planner. So I aligned the college that I went to, and that was going to be my forever place. I did my undergrad there and my master's. I actually started doing my master's at the same time as my undergrad because I had good grades, and the school offered you to start your master's program early. So very structured, very planner. And then, I always stayed good friends with my high school sweetheart from the small town in Ohio. So anytime that I'd go back home to Ohio to visit, we would hang out and we would just kind of talk about life. And he told me that he was getting ready to move to Colorado and to go into ROTC to explore going into the Air Force. And I was like, oh, well, that's really cool. Like that sounds like an amazing path for you. I'm so excited that you're getting out of this town and, you have these big dreams and goals now. Didn't really think much of it. So went back to school, doing my grind and doing everything. Had really great opportunities already lined up. I was actually working for a celebrity down there that had a business that I was helping her with a lot of her PR and communications. So really had a great foundation poured. And long story short, ended up getting back together with my high school sweetheart who was commissioning into the Air Force at the time. And I just remember thinking, what is going on? This is not part of my plan at all. And to be honest, I had no idea what it would be like living the military life.
Yeah.
But I did know, obviously it would be super rewarding, but at the same time, it would be very challenging. And so I decided to go with love, and I kind of put my own career goals and dreams on the side. I wasn't quite sure how I would be able to have a broadcasting and communications career, not really knowing where we were going to go. It just didn't seem possible.
Right.
Yeah, so I ended up, after I finished my master's, we got stationed at our first duty station in San Antonio, Texas. And to be honest, I was lost. I was like, who am I? Like, what kind of job am I looking for? Like, what am I going to be able to do? How am I going to go into an interview? And do I tell them I'm a military, spouse, basically? Yeah. And all these questions started going through my head, trying to navigate things that I just didn't know. Thankfully, I did get very lucky, and I went into an interview, and the founder was just an amazing people person. But the one thing about it was in logistics. And I remember asking him, I'm like, I don't really even actually know what logistics is. Can you please tell me what logistics actually is?
Yeah.
I just really liked the job description, the pay. Everything was about community, supporting each other, growing, and all
the planning aspect. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, logistics, I have no idea. But me being a people person, I'm like, I'm sure I can do anything and continue to, figure it out.
Yeah.
So sure enough, I ended up landing that job, and something that was so important to me about that job is now I had two key foundational skills and understanding of business, right? It was communications and logistics, two huge pieces to entrepreneurship. And so I knew I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I wanted to be able to create a company that made a greater impact, that helped other people. So it just couldn't be anything.
Yeah.
And so advancing in the military spouse life, I'm a few years in now to military life, I felt lost still. I couldn't quite find my people, because I've always been very, career driven, goal driven. And it was really hard to find and connect with spouses that were like me and that really wanted to have their own thing and to continue to kind of be their own person. So long story short, one thing led to another, and I was in a car ride going to dinner with a few spouses, and I looked around in the car and I was like, okay, you're a photographer, you make coffee, you're a private investigator, I love business. Like, if there's that much talent just within this one car, I can't even imagine how much talent is within the entire community of military spouses. I just wasn't exposed to it, directly all the time. So that's what led me to creating Spousely. I wanted to create a platform that basically brought all of these makers, creators, and entrepreneurs together to be able to share their talent with the world and to be able to kind of bridge the gap between doing what you love and living a life on the go. So sorry, that was super long-winded, but I think it's very important.
It's super important. Yeah, and I can think back on my career. My wife and I got married when I was about 5 years into the Navy as an enlisted corpsman. So the medic with the Marines, right? So, and she had just graduated in 3 years from college with her bachelor's in finance, and she had gotten on with one of the big 5 accounting firms in Chicago, and that's where we ended up meeting. And she was very, very focused.
Yeah.
And it's funny, actually, because she was making more than I was as a recent graduate, than I had spent 5 years in the Navy making money, right?
Yes,
so I was like,
situation too, girl.
you can just be my sugar mama. Like, I'll just stay home, you make the money, whatever. And she's like, heck no, boy, you better start going and getting education and everything else.
Yes.
But it's true. There are so many spouses who were highly educated or had a great career, and when their spouse joined up in the service, they just kind of like,
yeah,
let's take this mission and let's move it forward. For you to have the courage and the tenacity to see that need and then to form something is great. So you have logistics, you have communication.
Yep. And then I went to school for marketing and everything, business. So I kind of had like a mix of everything, and then obviously broadcasting. So being able to use my voice to help others continue to power forward. That's how I always like to see it. Because, some people don't necessarily love, communicating in that way, but yet they have this amazing talent. They just don't know how to share it.
How to put it to use.
So that's kind of always been my natural, gift, I would say, is I always encourage and see the best in others, and try to help them amplify it.
Yeah, so I did an MBA course. I got my MBA, and they would teach us these different aspects of business, but one thing they couldn't teach was how to create a vision. And you were able to pull that together. What's that?
Is that how we connected on LinkedIn about my post about how I've learned more in entrepreneurship than I did with my MBA? That's right.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly it. Because I was thinking, me starting this channel and all the other avenues that go with it had to have a vision with it. And it had to be a vision that I believed in. It had to be something that served this community It had to be a way for me to earn money at some point, and it had to be something that I loved, that it didn't feel like work.
Yes.
Right.
Because you want to love what you do. I mean, that's the bottom line. And, that's something I learned from my dad early on. I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and so does my husband, actually. And that's the biggest thing they've always said. They were like, when you love what you do, it's not work.
Yeah. And that is true for this channel. That is true for this channel. Because I have a regular day job.
Yeah.
And I do that all day long. And then in the evening is when I take my interviews from lunchtime and I start to edit and process and put it out there. And it takes the free time away, but it's what I love, because I know that there's a way to help. So you formulated this vision for Spousely. Talk to me about the inner workings of Spousely and how you've helped it to run.
Yeah, so I started doing, market research and really trying to see, one, if there was anything out there like I had a vision of and how I really wanted it to be built, as well as the impact of the community piece that it would make. And so obviously, the top marketplace that comes to mind and that I knew inside and out because I've been a vendor on myself is Etsy. And I was like, oh, it's genius. There's already a proven business model out there. They've been able to create this amazing community of all of these other entrepreneurs. I was like, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel, but what I want to do is I want to create something that's very niche that serves, the purpose of supporting our nation's heroes while allowing other people to come and shop and support. So honestly, I went from idea to creation within about 8 months. So like I said, I'm very once I got something on my mind, I'm gonna, bring it to life or follow it through. So I teamed up with a web developer. I kind of mapped everything out of how I wanted it to look, how I wanted it to function. And we got to work on building out the actual platform. So the one thing that I've been asked on this journey and that I've learned on this journey, because we launched in 2020, which was right before the pandemic, is that a multi-vendor marketplace is one of the hardest businesses to scale and grow. And people ask me that all the time. They're like, did you realize that you were actually getting into one of the hardest industries? And I was like, I had no idea. To be honest, it was almost kind of a blessing in disguise, because if I would have known more of what I know today, I would have never gotten started with it.
Interesting.
And it's been great. So basically, Spousely, I always like to explain it. It's like Etsy meets Angie's List, but with a focus on shopping for social good and supporting our nation's heroes. So anybody can shop and support. All of our vendors are approved military spouses, veterans, service members, Gold Star families, and first responder families. So we do have a great mix of everybody. Obviously, I took the focus and named it Spousely for a reason, is because as a spouse myself, I know that the spouse community sometimes has to take the back seat. And I really wanted to give our community something that we could call our own. So that's kind of been our mission and our bread and butter. But it's been a journey. There's been a lot of great things that we've accomplished. We've made the Forbes Next 1000 list, the Inc. Female Founder list. There's been just so many great opportunities from a media standpoint, meeting great people like yourself. But at the end of the day, I might be the founder and I might be the one that has been self-funding it and has brought it to life, but it is a community effort. It is truly powered by our nation's heroes. And every day between our customers, our vendors, and our partners, it's a team effort. Everybody is doing different initiatives and different opportunities to support one another.
Yeah, that's great. Is there any engagement by the military themselves on bases to have you make your voice heard?
So that is the part that I was super let down on. I thought for sure I would be able to get it on bases included, especially in family readiness or, in communication that's going out to families as they're signing up, because as we know, there's not, the focus is also on supporting the family, because then that results in long-term success. But sadly, because Spousely is for profit, I have had so many issues on anybody wanting to support and helping us amplify on base. So I finally got to the point where I was like, screw it. I'm going to continue to find our tribe of makers, creators, and entrepreneurs off base, and we're going to continue building, because, I created it for a reason, because there was a gap, there was a need for it, and nobody was doing it. And unfortunately, I thought I was going to get and have more support, especially our community from bases, from different organizations and groups. But it's been an uphill battle in that area. So
that frustrates me, because I see your creation here as being essential for bases to support and add it to their list
that's
of.
what everybody says. Everybody, from our customers to our vendors to the service members. There's so many service members themselves that have helped try to get, like, hey, you should be mentioning Spousely. Like, there's so many people that would benefit from it. So I don't know.
How about congressmen or supporters in that state?
I have not tried that route. I honestly kind of hit a wall with it because I was very discouraged. Honestly, it just like made me like, I was just so mad at the fact that I have poured everything in. Like, I am the community. Like, I'm part of the community. It's not like I've, created something to try to just like get in on base. That's not what I'm looking for. I created a need. But yeah. So
I wonder if we can talk offline after this interview, and maybe I can join the cause here and help reach out to congressmen in my state and try to push it as a resource for the bases. To me, it's a no-brainer. If they're only looking for nonprofit, then they have to get rid of every housing, every bed manufacturer, everybody else on base, because everybody is for profit.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something that I was told too that really made me mad. So I was filming for a national show. And I wanted to show a picture of my husband and I with him in uniform, because obviously, to relate for consumers and people to be watching the show that, we are a military family. And the response that I got back was, we cannot approve this because this seems like the spouse is trying to pull the heartstrings of America to create more profit for her company or something along those lines. And I will never forget that, because it goes back to why I probably haven't gotten support. I'm thinking, once again, because it's a for-profit company. But guess what? The best part about Spousely is the more it grows, the more it directly puts funds in the pockets of our nation's heroes.
100%.
And the reason I made it for-profit is because I want people to scale themselves. I want, the more that a vendor's growing, the more we're all growing together. So,
well,
yeah. Anyways, that's the challenges of entrepreneurship.
yeah, but it's frustrating because an inside circle solution is being rejected when the majority of the highest need exists on the base. I can just think about all the enlisted spouses who have skill sets. They're not making a lot of money as an enlisted. That they would really benefit from joining up and soliciting their services through you and having those eyes on. That's frustrating. Well, we should talk afterwards.
Yeah, the educational piece is our favorite, because just like you said, I mean, there's many people out there who never thought even exploring entrepreneurship was going to be possible, because oftentimes it seems scary or you feel like it's going to cost a lot. But that's like the best part about the power of our community, is we are constantly helping people, go from idea to creation and then having a place to sell. So lots of good for sure. Yeah.
Well, that's getting my mind spinning here. Monica, I've got another question for you here too that I think is essential. What makes a good spouse to someone who's in the military? What's involved?
Yeah, so I think, the biggest thing is to never give up on your own identity, to never give up on your own personal dreams and goals, and to really have that partnership. And that's what has allowed, me to be where I'm at today, and to what I'm able to do and everything, is because my husband and I, like, it's a partnership. Like, he understands, and he has always known me for being so driven, and knows that I also, made a sacrifice too, to be able to be, with him. And obviously I'm don't take it the wrong way, forever grateful and very supportive of everything he does, and, absolutely love being a part of the journey. But at the end of the day, I mean, it is a two-way street. And I think the biggest thing is spouses often maybe feel like they have to push their own goals or whatever it might be on the side, because it just doesn't seem possible. So everything that I do and everything that we do at Spousely is really help empower that we can turn the impossible into I'm possible. So making sure that, we're constantly just whatever we might want to do on this journey, that we do it.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges, and maybe this global audience can be educated here, is that the average duty station time for a person in the military can be anywhere from 2 to 5 years, depending on their role. And then they move to another part of the country or the world even. And in that time frame, everything picks up, the school, the job. A lot of it's not transferable, so you have to start afresh every time you go someplace new. And it becomes a real challenge. I'm talking to another veteran who's in another country, a foreign country, and he's trying to find work, and it's very challenging to support a spouse and find work in another country. And so he's like, "What do I do? How do I carve out?"
Navigate. I'm a big believer, though, that there's a lot of great resources. There's a lot of great opportunities. And I think at the end of the day, it boils down to mindset. If you're willing to take risks and you're willing to try new things and embracing the opportunity that we do get from being a military family, especially when it does come to getting to learn about different locations and being, creating all these great connections everywhere we go. We actually really have an opportunity if we allow our mind to see the positive in it as well.
Yeah, and I think not everybody has that acquired taste for risk.
Yeah.
Right? And there's always a little bit when money's not coming in. You're like,
right.
How do I do this? And you've said it well. Like, when you start a business, you are self-funding from the beginning. And if equal amounts aren't coming in, it makes it a real strain.
Yeah. It's hard, and especially bootstrapping. That's kind of where we're at today. And to be honest, over the past year, I've gone back and forth on what is the right growth strategy? How can we get to the next level? Because we have such an incredible community, and it's my duty to continue making sure that we're scaling and growing as best as possible, and all the opportunities are aligned. So where I truly see Spousely continuously being able to make a greater impact and to do everything that I know it's capable of doing is to align it with the right partner, whether that's being the marketplace arm to another company, or having someone come in that shares the same passion and being able to get us to that next level. Because I do think, like I said, it's hard. There's a lot of ups and downs, but at the end of the day, continuously aligning yourself with the right people and the right support, we all have so much to give one another.
Yeah, it's hard to know when to pull that lever and jump full time into your business that you've created, because again, if income's not coming in yet, it becomes a real challenge. So do you leave what's stable and consistent and has trajectory, 401 and all the other pieces with it, and focus on the business? What does that look like? When is that signal? What do you think is the best advice for that?
Yeah, so I went through this when I launched Spousely. I was still working and I was doing everything, had the stability of the paycheck and all of that. But then I quickly saw that I really wanted to see what it was like to go all in on Spousely. It was very, very scary because, like you said, it is one of those things. Do you give up the stability, or do you go all in and see what you can do while you are all in? So I did go all in on Spousely for about 2 years. And then I got to the point where I was like, you know what? I was able to get Spousely to where it was at today because I was able to kind of look at it from a different angle. I wasn't doing the grind, because oftentimes when you do go in and you do the grind, depending on your business, of course, but for Spousely self-runs. I worked very hard to get it in terms of automation. I have a small team in place. They're the ones helping handle the day-to-day operation of it. And I was at a place where I was like, I want to be back at that angle of, I want to see it from a higher level of, okay, this is what we've been able to do, and this is where we want to go. And I was very clouded when I was on ground level. So obviously everybody's experience is different. And it really does depend on your revenue model, what type of business it is. But for Spousely, the money that Spousely actually makes is just, it's too minimal to be where I would want to be able to continue to stay at that ground level. I would rather have the funds that Spousely is making go to my team and go towards helping and figuring out ways to continue, scaling it and making that impact. So I actually, when an opportunity came up to join a really great team of other founders that were building a really awesome company, very innovative, and it's in another passion of mine, which is real estate investing, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a really great opportunity. I would love to dedicate all of my time during the day now to go towards also working again alongside other founders and being able to continue learning and growing. So over the past year, I made that decision to go back and to go into helping another company scale with removing myself from the daily operation of my company. And oftentimes, I went back and forth many times on this of, man, how is that going to look? What does that mean? Am I going to be able to get Spousely to where I want it to go? And to be honest, it's the best decision that I made, because now I'm able to continue learning something that my mind's always going. I'm working alongside great people, and things are still thriving at Spousely, and I'm still able to have my team handle that.
Yeah. That trade-off is hard, because if you're not willing to go all in at a certain point, you'll never see the growth.
Yeah.
That only comes from giving everything to pushing it. So you get it to a certain plateau, you get your team underneath you, you're able to continue to learn, grow, and develop in other areas. And when the timing's right, you'll see it, and then you'll jump back in and say, let's take the helm and steer this where it needs to go, right? So
yeah. Absolutely. Honestly, I went back and forth on the decision for a while, and I was like, it's definitely the best decision that I made, just because, like I said, you can never stop learning and growing. And it's just been great to be able to watch, my team and everything that we've put in place to where now I don't have to be on the ground level. Obviously, I have different check-in points in the evenings and on the weekends, but during the day, all of my time is dedicated to my commitment with the company.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. One of the challenges of military life is when there are deployments, and I don't know if your spouse is already deployed or if he has opportunities to deploy in the future, but that becomes a real hardship for spouses who are behind. And if they're able to work, and let's say children aren't the issue, then that creates an outlet for the spouse to really heal and keep their mind busy and active while someone else is in harm's way. So I love the concept of Spousely, especially I could think back on my time in and wish that there was something available like that for us then, because it would have been something that would have been a great catch.
Yeah, I always say it's such a great way to have that flexibility and stability when with a creative outlet, like having that creative outlet when needed most. So.
Yeah, perfect. Well, Monica, it's been great to have you on this show and to share some of your entrepreneurial ideas and vision and the process involved in it, which is huge, that I think this channel will benefit from. As we get to the last little segment here of this channel, what kind of advice would you give someone who has an idea but isn't moving forward with it?
Yeah, so I made a commitment to myself when I started on this journey. I found a quote early on, and I said, I'm going to say this quote in every speaking engagement, every opportunity that I get. So I have to end with the quote, because I have not yet broke the cycle, just so you know.
Good, let's hear it.
Yeah, it's growth begins when comfort ends. And I think it is so powerful. It's something that obviously, I'm living and breathing all the time. And it really goes back to, like you said, if somebody's kind of lingering around the idea and they oftentimes will hold themselves back because they're afraid of what's on the other side. So my biggest thing is always helping others, including myself, see that on the other side of fear is always something new and great.
Oof. Yeah. That is some great wisdom. That's a hard one.
It is hard. It's easier said than done. Now, trust me, like I said, I'm very honest. I'm an open book. So I always am living and breathing that. I have to constantly be reminding myself that. But what I will say is when I do look back on my journey and everything, that I've been through and have accomplished and all of that, it always has been when I've taken that leap, that challenge and that leap into the unknown.
I think it totally fits. It works for fitness. It works for nutrition. I cold plunge periodically in my front yard when it's 34 degrees in that water. Let me tell you what.
Oh, yeah.
The growth begins when the comfort ends, and the comfort ends as soon as my toes hit that water. So,
yeah, my husband just got up to 20 minutes one time. I was like, I don't know how. I think he just I don't even know. You go numb, I guess.
Yeah, it's here, right? It's the resilience which it builds. Yeah, it's great for the body and mind.
By it, though.
Yeah.
I love starting his day like that sometimes. I'm like, this is crazy. Or ending with a cold shower or whatever.
Yeah, I hope in the near future maybe I can interview him when he's ready. So that would be fun to get his story too. Monica, thank you so much, and you've been a joy to talk with as always. And I love your energy and excitement for what's hopeful in the future. And maybe we can talk for a minute after this ends today, and maybe talk through some ideas. But thank you so much for joining, and I hope to have some more interactions in the future.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome.